In this video, I'm going to be reviewing One Punch Man Season 1. I recently rewatched Season 1 of One Punch Man, and I decided to make this review video on it. As per normal, I can't use footage from the show, so I'm going to put disc room on the screen. I got the disc room footage from one of my stream VODs, and a link to the full stream VOD will be in the description. Let's start the review. One Punch Man Season 1 mostly slaps. In a nutshell, One Punch Man is about this guy called Saitama who can kill anybody in one single punch. I know this is going to sound super boring for probably a good amount of people because you know that any fight he's involved in will end in one single punch. I personally still really enjoyed it despite the fact that I knew the fights were going to end in one single punch because the show is self-aware of the fact that all the fights are going to end in one single punch, so they accommodate for that. I think the biggest accommodation they give is the structure of the show. They only spend one episode on a single enemy or group of enemies, except for the episodes towards the end of Season 1, which I'll talk about later. So they aren't doing something like, this is the strongest army on the earth, and there's the head of the entire army, and then there's these smaller leaders leading these divisions of the army, and the fight with the smaller leaders and the head is going to be hype. They don't do that in this show. The guy or group dies by the end of the episode. One Punch Man doesn't have an overarching story besides the hero characters that get introduced and are a part of the show. Another accommodation they give is making the enemies seem all big and cool and so confident that they're going to win since they're just fighting a regular tiny human, but then they die in one single punch and everyone else is shocked. Another accommodation is Saitama's character. Saitama doesn't feel any emotions and thinks that being the strongest thing on Earth and maybe even the strongest thing in the multiverse is boring. Saitama also doesn't get excited for any battles he participates in since he knows he's going to win in one single punch. Saitama obviously knows he's going to win in one single punch, so he lets the enemies use him as a punching bag for a bit before killing them, just to see how strong they are, so the enemies are not just complete throwaway characters. The next thing I want to talk about is a character named Genos. Genos is a fighting robot. He was human at one point in time, but then something tragic happened to him and he could only be saved by putting his conscience into a robot. Genos can fly, shoot lasers out of his hands and out of his feet, and shoot rockets, and he has a flamethrower. Genos is pretty cool, and the reason why I'm diving into such a detail about him is because he's the other main character besides Saitama. Genos gets introduced in the second episode of the show, and when I was explaining the structure of the show earlier, it is both Saitama and Genos as a team taking down the enemies every episode until towards the end of Season 1, which I'll dive into detail about now for the last few episodes of Season 1. Before I dive into detail about the last few episodes of Season 1, I need to explain that there's this quote-unquote hero organization that exists to protect the cities, and that's where the other heroes come from, and that's how they meet up. So in the last few episodes of Season 1, the main focus shifts from Saitama and Genos to the other heroes, and then the focus shifts back to Saitama for the final fight. Something else I want to point out is that 2 episodes were spent on one enemy, and I think 2 episodes were spent on the finale. And to be clear, I don't have a problem with multiple episodes being spent on one enemy, assuming it's not being stretched out. I'm just pointing this difference out. I didn't like the last few episodes of Season 1 as much as the other episodes because the heroes can't defeat a single enemy on their own. They get put out of commission, and then they have to call for backup, and then the backup gets put out of commission, and then Saitama shows up at the last second to kill the guy and save the day. I preferred the previous dynamic with Saitama and Genos rather than the dynamic that is in the last few episodes because of this point. Something I haven't mentioned yet is the quality of the animation, and the animation quality quality for season 1 is good, and the CGI is good as well, and they didn't compensate very much with CGI, so that's good. The writing is also good, and there's a few comedic moments that are done well. And I think it's worth noting that the comedic moments are done well, because I don't find a whole lot of comedic moments in TV funny, nor do I laugh at most of the comedic moments done in TV, even if I find it funny. I also really like the opening for One Punch Man season 1. I thought it slapped. I almost forgot to give my thoughts on the quality for the fight scenes, and in short, the fight scenes are good, and I thought all of them slapped. It's time to give the score. I'm giving One Punch Man season 1 a 4 out of 5. I wanted to give it a 5 out of 5, but I think the last few episodes of season 1 brings it down a bit. For those of you wondering why I haven't talked about the other characters, I haven't talked about the other characters because I don't want to spoil them. I'm going to rewatch season 2 of One Punch Man and make a review video on that, and I don't really remember it that well, and apparently it sucks. So I'll see after I rewatch it. That's about it. See ya.